The candle flickered on the polished wooden table, casting a warm, inviting glow across the small, cozy corner of the Berlin cafe. Lena, a woman whose generous curves and infectious laugh made her the center of attention in any room, smiled at Klaus, her boyfriend of 2 years. He had his hand over a small velvet box on the table, and her heart fluttered with anticipation. It was her birthday, a day she'd spent convinced was the pinnacle of happiness. "For you, my love," he murmured in his soft German accent, pushing the box toward her. Inside, nestled on a bed of satin, was a vintage silver locket, intricately carved with twisting vines and delicate roses. It was old, beautiful, and felt heavy with history. As she unclasped the locket, expecting to find a small portrait or a lock of hair, her fingers brushed against something hard and metallic hidden beneath the satin lining. It wasn't a picture. It was a miniature voice recorder, no bigger than her thumbnail. A knot of unease tightened in her stomach, but she dismissed it as a strange, quirky gift and pressed the play button. The tinny sound of 2 familiar voices filled her ears. The first was a woman's, sharp and cold. "Are you sure she'll fall for it, Klaus? She's not exactly naive." Then Klaus's voice, his charming warmth replaced by a chillingly pragmatic tone. "She's not naive, no, but she is so romantic. She believes in fairy tales. A little gift, a little talk about a shared future. She'll do anything for what she believes is true love." The woman's voice laughed, a dry, rustling sound like dead leaves. "And the trust fund? You're sure it's enough to cover everything?" "More than enough. She's signed everything. She thinks she's just a placeholder, a temporary guardian of her late aunt's fortune. But she's not. The moment we marry, it's all ours. She's so blinded by love she won't even see it coming. She doesn't know the truth about a woman's heart." Lena's hand trembled, the locket and recorder falling from her grasp and clattering onto the table. The silence that followed was deafening, the beautiful illusion of a loving relationship shattering into a million sharp, unforgiving pieces. She looked at Klaus, his smile unchanging, his eyes reflecting a cruelty she had never seen before. Her fairy tale was a lie, a carefully constructed trap. A single, silent tear traced a path through the makeup on her cheek as she finally understood. The truth about a woman's love wasn't its strength, but its crippling vulnerability, Lena's world. Up until the shattering clatter of a tiny voice recorder, was a tapestry of warmth, flower, and the gentle rhythms of her own making. Her name, Lena Schneider, was synonymous with the best strudels and the most perfectly flaky croissants in all of Berlin. At 32, she carried a comfortable, confident weight that seemed to anchor her, a stark contrast to the fleeting, ethereal beauty of the women in glossy magazines. Her attraction wasn't just in her form. It was in the way her face lit up when she talked about a new recipe, the dimples that appeared when her boisterous laugh echoed through her bakery. Süße or sweet dreams. She was a woman who was fully, unapologetically present in her body and her life. Her hands, dusted perpetually with flour, were strong and capable, reflecting a spirit that built its own happiness from scratch. Her life was simple but full. Mornings began before dawn, with the scent of yeast and sugar filling the air. She lived in a small, sunny apartment above her shop, its walls adorned with mismatched paintings and shelves overflowing with cookbooks. She had a tight circle of friends, mostly old regulars from the cafe who had watched her grow from a wide-eyed pastry apprentice into the queen of her own little culinary kingdom. They adored her for her loyalty, her brutal honesty, and her unwavering belief in the good in people. This last trait, her friends often teased, was her biggest flaw. She saw the best in everyone, giving second, third, and even fourth chances with a generosity of spirit that few could muster. It was this fierce, almost childlike trust in the inherent goodness of others that had made her fall so deeply for Klaus, a man who had seemed to be the perfect ingredient for her happy, well-baked life. He was charming, attentive, and spoke of a future with such conviction that she had willingly, naively, given him a place in her well-ordered world. She had just celebrated her 32nd birthday, a day she had believed marked the perfect confluence of a successful career and a blossoming love. A day now irrevocably tainted by the ugly truth that lay exposed on a cafe table. With the brutal honesty of the voice recorder still ringing in her ears, Lena found herself trapped in a cruel loop. The trouble she now faced wasn't just a single betrayal. It was a carefully woven web of deception that exploited her deepest vulnerabilities. The trouble was that she had already willingly given him control. Klaus, charming and manipulative, had convinced her to transfer her late aunt's trust fund into a joint account, citing tax benefits and the ease of planning their future. He'd even had her sign power of attorney documents, which he'd explained away as standard legal procedure for their upcoming marriage. Her love, so deeply rooted in trust, had blinded her to the legal and financial threads he was weaving. Now, she understood the full extent of his betrayal. The voice recorder had revealed his true motive: the trust fund. He had expertly played on her desire for a true partner, making her believe they were building a life together, when in reality, he was simply a fraud seeking her inheritance. The loop was the realization that she had been an active participant in her own downfall, blindly signing papers and handing over control of her finances and future. She wasn't just a victim. She was a willing, albeit unwitting, accomplice in his con. The real trouble wasn't just the loss of the money, but the terrifying understanding that the very things she believed in, trust, love, and a partner's honest intentions, had been weaponized against her. She was a woman who had given her heart and her future away for a lie, and now she had to figure out how to get it back. The real, gut-wrenching reveal wasn't just that Klaus was a con artist, it was the chilling truth about the other voice on the recorder. As Lena replayed the snippet, a familiar lilt, a turn of phrase, and a cold, calculating laugh sent a shockwave through her. It wasn't some unknown accomplice. The voice belonged to her closest friend, a woman she had considered a sister and a confidant, Ava. This wasn't just a betrayal by a lover. It was a conspiracy orchestrated by the one person she had trusted with her deepest secrets. A person who had always listened with a sympathetic ear as Lena gushed about her love for Klaus. The big revelation was that the truth about female love isn't always found in grand gestures or shared vulnerabilities, but in the insidious jealousy that can fester in the shadows of a seemingly supportive friendship. Ava had been the one to introduce Lena to Klaus, and now the entire history of their friendship felt like a meticulously planned series of setups and calculated manipulations. Lena's naive, boundless love for Klaus had been a predictable script. What she had never accounted for was the silent, passive-aggressive resentment from a friend who had always claimed to want what was best for her. The chilling truth was that female love, in its purest form, is often selfless and nurturing, a shield against the world. But when corrupted by envy, it can turn into a venomous, backhanded affection, a slow poison meant to ensure the other person's failure. Eva had listened to Lena's dreams, not with genuine joy, but with a quiet, burning desire to see them crumble. She had fed Lena's belief in fairy tales, knowing full well that such a blind faith would make her an easy target. The climax wasn't the confrontation with Klaus. That was just the predictable end of an illusion. The real climax was the icy, silent confrontation with Eva, a moment of profound, wordless horror as Lena realized the depth of the deception. The true enemy wasn't the man who stole her money, but the woman who stole her faith in friendship and sisterhood, proving that sometimes the greatest betrayal comes not from a lover, but from a trusted ally who secretly desires your fall. Lena's journey ended not with the recovery of her fortune or the public shaming of Klaus and Eva, but with a quiet, profound revolution within herself. After the shock and the tears, a cold, unwavering clarity settled in. She did not seek revenge. Instead, she chose a different path, one of absolute, unyielding self-love. She did not start a new life in a new city. She transformed the one she already had. The bakery, her sanctuary, became a monument to her resilience. She changed the name from Zusaträume to Wahre Liebe, true love, a defiant nod to the bitter lessons she had learned. The baked goods remained a testament to her skill, but each pastry now carried a different meaning. The sweetness was not just from sugar, but from the hard-won independence she now cherished above all else. She cut off all contact with both Klaus and Eva, refusing to waste another moment of her life on their toxic manipulations. The trust fund was gone, but the money she had earned herself was a more solid foundation than any inherited fortune. She learned to manage her finances, to read contracts with a critical eye, and to trust her instincts over the charming words of others. Her journey taught her that the truth about a woman's love wasn't its ability to sacrifice for others, but its power to fiercely protect her own spirit. She realized that the deepest, most unconditional love she would ever experience was the one she could build for herself. Her journey culminated not in a grand, romantic finale, but in a simple, quiet moment. One evening, after the bakery had closed and the scent of fresh bread lingered in the air, she sat with a cup of coffee and a new journal. She wasn't lonely. She was profoundly content. She wrote a single line, a testament to her transformation. "My heart is not a fairy tale to be won, but a fortress to be guarded." She had learned that a woman's true love isn't for a man or a friend, but for the person looking back at her in the mirror. She had lost her money and a naive belief in others, but in exchange, she had found her true, unshakable self. The truth about female love, she now knew, was its unbreakable strength when it chooses to protect its own heart first.